Hello and welcome to Tear Down These Walls podcast. Here we tear down the walls of silence, shame, and stigma one story at a time. And for episode 26, I have Chelsea. Chelsea, won't mind me saying you're Keith's partner. So Keith was on for episode 25, and I've gotten to know you a little bit as well these past few months. And I think we're going to talk about some things that I feel like is still a bit of a taboo subject and can make me feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about them. I know I've had some conversations with you. So I'm excited, I'm curious, but I also feel a little bit vulnerable because I like to share my own experience. So I'll start off the way I usually do. If you'd like to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and how you came to work on the stuff that you work on.
Yeah, thank you. So I was born in Australia, and I lived in Australia for 49 years. I came here to Dublin last year. I've been here almost a year. And the way I grew up is a little bit unusual in the sense that I lived on property in Australia. So even though I was on the East Coast and fairly close to the coastline, I lived on a property just with my family. So my family were my parents. I had an older sister, 10 years older, my brother, 7 years older. Then there was me, and then there was a brother 3 years younger. And we lived around 9 k's out of town, and I didn't go to school. So I didn't go to school. I was homeschooled until I was about 10 when we left the property.
What is the property, what you'd call your house, Chelsea?
Yeah, so 44 acres of bush.
Wow.
So
it was rural countryside?
rural, yes, yeah, but not the nice manicured farms that you would expect to see. It was bush. It was as rough as you could think it was.
Okay.
We didn't have electricity. We didn't have running water. We didn't have a phone for many, many years. And so my lessons would actually be sent out to the town's post office, and my mum would pick them up there, and then we would have like a month's worth of school lessons, and then you do them and you submit them and you send them back up to Sydney.
So your mum would teach?
Yeah.
And you would do a month of homework. So how many hours a day would it be? Would it be like a normal school day?
It really depended what my mum had capacity for.
Okay.
Like my mum left school when she was 12. So she's English. She was born in London. And her family came over as what's known as the 10-pound poms. So
explain that to me. I've never heard that before.
A 10-pound pom, that was what it cost per person to come over and live in Australia. Wow. So people were leaving England in boatloads, basically. They were getting the passenger, ticket, and then they were coming over and they were locating in Australia.
Was it the time when England would have been going through a lot of hardship work-wise? Or?
So I would say we're talking early 60s. Early 60s and into the 70s. So my grandparents came over, my 2 aunties came over, and one of them already had a husband and children. And then there was my mum.
Okay.
So she actually left school very early. And she often said to me later, like that she had the opportunity to learn along with us because her schooling was so, like she left when as
it was so limited.
12. Yeah.
So that would have been right up until primary school, like in Ireland, you would leave and start secondary at 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I think there was probably not a lot of structure. We probably did our schoolwork in the morning, but then I had the bush. I had my horses. I had my animals. I had my brothers. And we would just explore. So we would just be running wild for the rest of the day. And I know they say, like often you knew when to come home when the streetlights came on.
Yeah.
But So when
For
it
you, was the
started,
sun going down? The sun going down,
yeah,
okay.
come home when you're hungry or come home when the sun comes down.
I'm now, because people idolise this type of life, because I'm thinking I love to be out. I was in the flats in Jarvis Street, so it was a little bit different.
Yeah.
But we did have gardens between each block of flats. And I remember, like, we'd spend their summers, in those gardens. My cousin James, he was the same age as me, and he loved to collect caterpillars and spiders. And they are some of my fondest memories. But that was before I got into all the other stuff down there. But any piece of green that we had, like, I absolutely loved. So for me, thinking of you in the bush on horses and exploring, coming home, it sounds so idyllic.
Yeah. And honestly, while I was living it was idyllic. It was when we left the farm and we moved back into town and I started school that I realized actually, no, I can't even say that I realized, because I was a kid, I was living it. But I was so far behind my peers in not my learning. My learning was great. I understood my lessons and everything. It was the social side of things.
Yeah.
I really lacked the understanding of kids because I'd never really been around them, and girls in particular. So it was when I was first experienced bullying, and
So you would have no concept.
no
of
concept,
that. None.
no social.
Or the it girls, or what was in trend, or what you were supposed to say and do.
I didn't know the rules.
This is fascinating.
I didn't know the rules. And because I grew up with, as I said, my two closest siblings in age are both boys. So I could match them on the footy field. I could match them in the cricket. I was quite athletic. I had my horses. I was always busy doing something and active and something that was body based. I had the freedom to do those things. So I had more in common with the boys than I did with the girls when I was at school.
The group of people in the town would have probably looked at you in terms of a tomboy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's just because of conversations we had, and it's like, but why did that define us as tomboys if you were good at kicking footballs? Because I was very tomboyish, scaling walls, wants to play football. And we had a session in college last week talking about penis envy. And I said in the class, I have penis envy. I always have.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be one of the lads. I felt comfortable with them. I preferred doing what they were doing than doing hers. I had no interest in that when I was younger. And even still now, at 44, it's never left me. I look at men and I think I'd rather be fucking you than be me.
Yeah.
But it's funny now with the way you're explaining that, like growing up on a farm. Is it a tomboy, or is it just that we get to do the same things? Like, what's the...
I think I had the freedom to be me. And what my world were my two brothers and my mum and dad, and also my animals, my horses. Like that was more than a passion for me. That was a way that I connected back to who I am. So if you can imagine that abruptly, like we lost our farm due to financial problems. So literally to a 10-year-old child, it's like, well, I didn't see this coming. I don't even understand what's coming. You're just told we're packing up and we're leaving. And then you settle in town, and then, oh, we're not doing homeschooling anymore. You're going to go to school. And so there was not a lot of explanation done. And so what happens is you're going through all of these changes with no explanation. And you're like, so the who I was growing up on the farm didn't have a place in the who I was going to be going into school, and then going into high school, and then as a young girl that's developing and becoming aware of boys and who's going to start menstruating and going to start dating and all of these things. Like this everything I did in my under 10 years didn't prepare me for what I was going to go through.
So like I'm trying to look at it, and I'm seeing this person who was being thrown into this society where, like, would it be fair to say that you were extremely lost and felt like you were on a different planet, and you were looking around and thinking,
Yeah.
"Whoa,
Yeah.
what do I do? Where's my place?"
Yeah.
And did you ask questions to your mom or dad, or
Oh,
how was it for you, Chelsea?
um, I I didn't ask questions. I
Okay.
don't think I had that, as idyllic as my childhood sounds.
Mm,
I didn't have I didn't really have people to ask.
mm,
And what I mean by that is that my parents were going through their own problems, their
okay.
finances, they're having to change their way of life as
Mhm,
well. And if you've got a nervous system that's not coping,
mhm.
then sometimes that can come out as aggression, and it can come out as just leave me alone. So us as kids, we didn't really have anyone we could talk to.
So, in because I've described this before, when we are so consumed by our own grief and hurt, they would have been suffering from grief with the loss of the
Mm,
livelihood and the farm, and it's a way of life. It's not just I lost my job; you lose a whole way of life.
yeah.
And I can probably relate to that. Would say when my husband died, because their
Mhm.
way of life was gone.
Yeah.
And I was lost in grief. And in turn, my children would have felt like you, because they'd have known I wasn't available, because they'd have looked at me and thought, well, she's aggressive, she's
Mm.
drinking, she's escaping. And so I'm sure they would have a similar story to you, although
Yeah.
circumstances
Yeah.
very different. Where did you talk? Well, there was no one we could ask about the way we were feeling because she wasn't available.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not like we set out to do that, but that's the repercussions of
And
adults not being
that's the
able to.
thing, like, we never deliberately do these things.
No,
And,
no.
there's have been times in my life when I would have been that with my children as well,
Mhm,
because I didn't have the capacity, I didn't know how to hold my own grief and
mm,
also to help them with theirs.
yeah.
Like,
You
and
cannot give what you
you
don't
don't,
have,
yeah, exactly.
and you don't even realize it at the time. I made a conversation with Carla the other day, and we spoke about the aftermath of our dad dying, and I
Mm,
still close my eyes and have to sit with the experiences she shares with me. And I was like, I'm really so sorry. Like, if I had what I had now, that would have
mm,
never happened. Like, I've
yeah,
so many more tools and awareness now, and um, not the crutches that I was using then were detrimental to everybody.
yeah,
But, like, and she's like, it's okay. And I'm like, now it's okay. But when you hear a child sharing those experiences, do you think it's a generational thing? Do you think part of it?
I think part of it could be
Mm,
generational. I
mm,
know that my grandparents and then my mother and then me, like, I mean, you've got generations there that have gone through different things.
yeah.
My grandparents, on my mum's side, they from London, so they were there during World War II. So
Hmm.
they have memories and experiences of that. And then my mum has the memories and experiences of what it was like to grow up in London.
Mm,
And we're talking inner city London and
hmm.
everything that comes with that. And then I have a completely opposite generational experience of growing up basically in isolation. So
Mm.
every every generation, and like if you've had a look into like the epigenetics and how trauma can be
Didn't start
passed
with
down.
you. Mark Wolverine has an amazing book on it.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah, yeah.
interesting.
And it's really, really, it's very interesting.
Mm.
And they've done different studies where they've proven that if something has gone through something, then the offspring of the offspring can have an aversion to
Yeah.
it. And
Within the womb,
yes,
like your grandmothers, that
yes.
would have been set up for us to carry
But
this.
the amazing thing is, and we talk about the womb of the
Mm,
womb of the grandmother holds not only the embryo of your mother, it also holds all of her eggs, and you came from one of those eggs. So in a sense, you actually go through your grandmother's experiences when your mother was in utero, when she was those 9 months.
Wow.
So that blows.
That's like the deep level of. I remember reading the book, and I read these books going to bed, and then I read something like that, and I'm like, whoa, then I can't go fucking sleep, Chelsea.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And then I started thinking about my grandmother, what she's experienced, and the people before, and I'm like trying to wonder, I was absolutely fucked, you know?
That's it. And I mean, we think we're living our lives, but we don't realize how much influence we have from our ancestors, and whether that's your parents, whether it's your grandparents, or whether it's going further back. Like, you have your mother's perspective on the world, you have your father's perspective on the world, and they come together to then create the environment that you grow up in.
Oh, Lord.
So, yeah, that's a big one to sit with.
Well, you just think of, because people meet people where they're at, and people from the same communities, and people from the same communities are carrying the same load of challenges for generations. And it's like, oh my God, is this where cycle breakers come from? It's so hard for one person to say, actually, I want to stop this.
Yeah.
It's been going on for so long. I want to break this and get out. And, it's so difficult for people to do, Chelsea, because they're carrying the weight of generations
Absolutely.
of stuff.
Not only generations, the way things were always done, but the level of expectation. So there's an expectation of how you behave in a certain society.
Yeah.
You've got your biases, you've got your beliefs. I mean, everything influences not only yourself, but your family of origin, your community, and sometimes those beliefs and biases are not always the best.
And this is why we lose so many people in the process of change. Because when we're not aligning with a group of people's beliefs anymore, or self-standards, or whatever it may be, people can't relate anymore. And friendships fracture, people disengage from communities, or you'll hear sayings like, and I've never heard this about myself, but I've heard it about other people. She thinks she's better than us, or she's completely changed, and it's a real negative thing about
Who do you think you are?
Who do you think? Who does that one think she is? Yeah,
exactly.
It's so interesting, isn't it? God, there's so much to think about here. My head is going into one of those. Where will I go? But I didn't know, and this is great for me, because a lot of people, I know a little bit about their background, but the story, it's fascinating. And I know you're in high school. That's where we left out. So how did you get through that? What tools did you use if you didn't have any adults?
Well, that's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Because, so for the next 2 years, nearly 3 years, I was in that town that was closest to where I grew up. And I had a lot of bullying. I had no friends.
You weren't relating?
Not relating.
It's funny, when you started telling me the story, I said to myself, I bet you she was bullied so much. Like, I was thinking of someone like that coming into our community, and how different they'd be.
Yeah.
And how mean we'd probably be to that person because of the differences.
Yeah, it's like that herd mentality.
Yeah.
So if something is different from the herd, it tends to be pushed out.
Yeah.
So that was my reality and experience for the next 3 years. Then something happened in my family, and my parents divorced.
Okay.
So this brings me up to when I was about 12. So 12, 13. And for their own reasons, my 2 older brother and my sister and my brother, they were off living their own lives. So it only left myself and my younger brother at home. And for some reason, I went with my mother, and my younger brother went with my dad.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and with me, by going with my mother, we moved towns. We didn't move far away, but we moved enough away. So when I started my next school, I knew how to mask. I knew how to fit in. So
you had learned.
I had learnt the rules of being a teenage girl.
We're so amazing though, aren't we? How quickly we learn to fit in.
But this was the start of me masking and me living from form. So
we get back to that later, the fawn response.
The fawn response. And it's only recently I've become aware of how much of my life has been lived through that fawn response.
You said an amazing thing to me the last time we spoke, and because it was my first therapist who actually sent me readings on the fawn response, because obviously she could see why, in their relationship, that this is what was going on. If you can say what you said to me about how much of your life are decisions. Do you remember that quote?
Yeah.
Can you please say that, because it was...
Well, over the last few years, like the last 10 years, really, my life has undergone a huge transition. And in the last, say, let's say couple of years, I've really become aware of the nervous system and the responses that we have and how they can influence our life.
So that's fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
And fawn, yeah. And fawn is actually more of an adaptive response. So it's a slightly different category to the other three. So, but we can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think we should, because I think there's so many people who would, that could relate,
could benefit from that. Yeah. So, obviously, as you're learning these things, your own life comes up for a review.
Sure.
And so much of what I teach and what I share, I've been there. I've run through my own microscope. And there was one thing in particular, like my father loves Australian rugby league, so football. And he has his favourite team, South Sydney. Always a South supporter. And I remember that was my way in. That was my key. That was my connection with him. So let's say in my 30s, I was busy. I had 4 kids by that stage, running a business, but that was my in with him. So, and I would know the teams, know the players. I would know the stats. I would have all of this information. So the next time I went to see him, I would have a way of connecting. I would be able to have those conversations where we're talking back and front and we're connecting. But it wasn't until years and years after I discovered for myself, I actually don't really care about football. I really don't care about football.
Chelsea.
I care about having that connection with my dad.
Or getting that endearing look.
Yeah.
That is like, oh my God, you know so much.
To being able to speak his language.
My daughter is amazing.
And that's the thing. And obviously in the last 10 years, I've undergone a lot of changes and a lot of relationships and connections that I have with people.
Well, you're doing this in every relationship to a degree.
To a degree, yeah.
Because I laugh, and it was only on reflection. My husband loved food. He loved eating out. He loved cooking. And when I met him, I thought, I really want to please him because I love him so much. And he's so good to me. What can I do?
Yeah.
So I called Fulcher Ireland, which is a training program in Ireland to teach it. And I wanted to be taught culinary skills. And when I went in, she goes, why are you applying for it? And I said, well, I want to be able to open the press and I want to be able to make a sauce from scratch. And she was like, I didn't know you were paid for the course. You were paid to actually do this. And I did that because I wanted to show him how much I saw him and how much I wanted to please him. I did a whole fucking course in culinary skills to please my husband. I had no interest in cooking before. It never looked stood to me. But I only looked back and thought how much of a people pleaser I was. And I wouldn't have thought that I was with him because I didn't think I had to work really hard in that relationship. But I was you're trying to give and give and give.
Yeah, and that's it.
So it's the same.
And with the awareness comes another awareness of how much of my life have I been living from a genuine place of what I want, who I am, and how much has been a trauma response.
That was it.
And
yes,
like the thing with my dad is just one thing that I know that I did, but I've done many, many, many others.
Yeah.
And I think it is something that a lot of women can tend to do. And it's that ability to adapt, that ability to become what I call the chameleon.
Yeah.
And to adapt into different
forms.
Yeah. And different versions. And sometimes that can change within friends group. It can change within relationships. It can change for many, many different reasons. But adaptation it's a biological thing. We're human and we are designed to adapt to surroundings. But sometimes it's also a survival.
I was going to say, when we're doing it the way we were, it's that survival mode response.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wouldn't have known that, like yourself, most of my life I was living in a survival. Hence suffering from anxiety, hence an alcoholic, hence all these things. The nervous system was always on the go and never in a state of relaxation.
No.
And you think that's who you are. And it's only when you do this, it's like I thought I loved noise and fast pace, and because I lived most of my life like that. It turns out I really don't enjoy the Chelsea. And I know it's an age thing as well, and I've got a lot of it in my system. But I laugh to myself because I remember being a little kid. I remember playing by myself and having games and liking going into a bedroom and having my own company. And I forgot about that part of myself because things got so fast paced and I always needed people around me and I wanted that to be in the fast lane. So I think there was always a part of me that enjoyed quietness and stability and but she got really lost, along the way. But it's so interesting what you're saying. So where it started from when you went to school, you moved out with your mother and you started using masks.
So this, as we've been speaking about adaptation, this is where I started to adapt, to adapt to my surroundings, to be the friend that needed the least, needed the least and could give the most. And I always felt like I had to prove my worth.
So much of what you're saying, it was like, what you said about how much of the decisions came from a trauma response. And I've never heard that before. The friends that needed the least, but
could give the most.
And it's that constant overworking of yourself and doing it all with a smile on your face and the happy one.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy. And it's always those people who suffer the most. You see these people and they're happy all the time and nodding and smiling and they're doing, they're the do-gooder, they say yes. And it's only now that I look and say, no, where are you in all of this? Who
was I?
Yeah.
I, as myself, didn't even exist. And like the adaptation and the masks, that then I had my first cigarette at 12. And that led to drinking. And then that led to sex and having a live-in boyfriend by the time I was 15. So all of these things were adaptations and ways of me being worthy, being loved, being liked. Like, my home environment was very. There were no rules. There were no rules. My mother had gone through.
You
a
are
divorce.
in charge of yourself.
Yeah, my mother had gone through a divorce, and in a sense, she went back to her childhood. There was exposure to drugs. There was it. Nothing was abnormal. It wasn't uncommon for me to come home and the bong's on the table. That was just how I grew up. It's just, as a child growing up and doing these things, you don't see the absurdity of it.
No, because it's your normal.
It's your normal.
So
Yeah.
you come home expecting that, and if it's not happening, it's a bonus that day.
Yeah.
And you're like, yay, today is a normal, or today I don't have to contend with that, and you're really happy then about it. But I get that, like, the stuff that became normal to me,
Mm.
I know was completely abnormal.
Yeah.
And then I could start to understand why I was. And it's so funny, Chelsea, because we haven't had a real in-depth conversation like this. Like, I was 12 having my fourth drink.
Mhm.
I was out drinking and doing all the wrong things. And you said, like, at 15 you were living. I was pregnant at 15.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think I thought, when I thought back, there was no rules and regulations, and I was steering the ship.
Yeah.
With no, like,
That's it. Yeah. The inmates are ruling the asylum.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I look back and I think, was I thinking if I created my own world very early on, would I be able to then control the narrative more? So would I be able to make the choices? So I think I thought, there must have been a part in me that thought, well, if I had my own family and my own kid and my own boyfriend and we moved out, I could make my own rules.
I think it's always that desire for stability.
Massive.
I don't know that for me, I was consciously thinking of these.
I wasn't
I don't
consciously.
think I had the ability to consciously.
But looking back,
I can see what I was longing for. I was longing for a home. I was longing for stability. I was longing to get out of my family environment and live my own life. So, I mean, so for me, as I said, I had a living boyfriend who came to live in my mum's home.
Okay.
So from 15. And with that came a lot of responsibilities that a 15-year-old shouldn't really have to be thinking about. I'm still a kid, still going to school, still trying to fit in and do all of these things. And while you're living it, you don't actually realize how much it takes out of you. Like how wired your nervous system is. Like you just don't have the capacity to even
you don't have the language.
You don't have
What's
the
a
language.
nervous system?
That's it. No, that's exactly right. And in my teenage years, everything was always blown out of perspective too. Like we were quite dramatic.
Reactors. My daughter looks at me and is like, whoa, like, calm down. Why are you so reactive?
Exactly.
My sister recalls the story about me jumping over a puddle, and she says, well, like someone of the Olympics doing a high jump. Why did you have to?
Why did you have to take it to
that level of, and so I have to be very conscious now of, trying not to react, Chelsea, because I was like that for so long. But it's funny that you're saying that, because I can completely identify with the drama of everything.
And so the next part of my story, so that continued for probably the next couple of years, 3 years. And then I left my mum's home.
Okay. 18, so you'd been 18. 17,
17 at this stage. And I met a man older than me. And so he was 6 years older than me. And within 7 months of knowing him, we married.
Wow.
So I married 2-3 months after my birthday, my 18th birthday.
So you had left with the first boyfriend that was living, and then you met a guy that was about 6-7 years old.
Because I broke up with the first boyfriend, I had to leave what had become my family home. He continued to live there, and I chose to leave.
Boyfriend?
The boyfriend stayed living with my mum.
Fuck's sake!
I know. I look back at it now and I think, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But so I left, and I briefly lived with my sister, and then I met this man, and everything happened so quickly. So, and I think because he appeared to be so perfect and so stable,
Mature, like mature guy,
yes, and all of these things, good job, own car, all of these things that I then morphed into what he needed.
I laugh because I have photographs where I'm in my late 20s and I'm dressed like a 50-something-year-old woman. And my sister was like, "What are you wearing? Why are you dressed like that?"
Yeah.
And she's like, and she said she's going to wear the costume on Halloween because it was a fucking costume.
But she was right.
It was a costume.
My whole
I
life
was pretending to be this well-together person who liked to eat in expensive restaurants and was more refined than I actually ever was. It couldn't just be authentically. And I was suffering though, Chelsea, like internally.
Yeah. The level of anxiety that having to live from that response, that freeze and that people pleasing, and it's extreme.
It really is. I remember my husband buying me a gift and they were beautiful earrings, lovely chain, necklace and matching earrings. And they weren't received the way he wanted me to receive them. And I thought, I don't need any of this stuff. And I was wearing jewellery like this and looking in the mirror and was like, looking back at myself and saying, who am I? And I was wearing these to please him. Now, I was very grateful. There were things I never imagined I'd had, and he was buying them from a good place. But every time I was wearing this stuff that was bought for me, I was feeling less and less like the person And he says to me, "What's wrong with you?" And I remember the conversation, it just came out, and I never wanted to hold the feelings. And I said to him, I miss me beads and me chains on my neck and me little, I used to wear like little scarves on my head sometimes when I met him, like these hairband things. And he was like to me, he couldn't comprehend why I would want that stuff that was made out of cheap wood. And I was like, but I felt like me in them. Like I felt like who most closest to who I was. And I remember it created a terrible atmosphere. Then I felt really bad. And then I probably went in and put the earrings and the chain on because they were coming from such a good place, Chelsea. But then, so rather than say things like that in the future, I just thought it's easier to wear this stuff and morph into this person. But more and more getting less like who I was. Is that the way it was?
Absolutely. And having come from a foundation where I didn't truly know who I was. It was very easy for me to become someone else. And this somebody else was eventually a mother of 2 children.
What year you had your first child?
22 when I had my first and 25 when I had my second. Okay. So, and I feel like it was just the done thing, that it was expected. I never went to university or college or anything like that. So I came out of school, got married, had kids. And that was the way it's been done and it didn't even cross my mind to consider to go to university. Higher education didn't even, and it was never presented to me in a way that this was a choice for me.
No, it's same for, there's a few years between you and I, not many.
50 next week.
Oh, 50, I'll be 50 next week. Happy birthday next week. I'm sure I'll remember. So 6 years, but that would have been the very same. So I'm 44. But we left school, not knowing what a CAO was, left secondary school, which is the application to go into third level. But it wasn't a done thing where I came from. Very few people did it. I mean, very, very few. I could probably name them on one hand. And the expectation was, I think we all just met someone who we liked and got married if you were lucky, but definitely went on to have the kids before we even got married. I think we were all trying to keep our own parent books in Dublin. That's the way it would. And if you got married, you lost that. So
bonus,
So 25 married.
25 married. Now
2 kids.
2 kids. And by the time my son was born, I realized how big of a mistake I had made.
The second child.
The second child. So, with my first daughter, I was so busy being a mother, learning how to be a mother. It didn't come naturally to me. I didn't have that maternal instinct.
Okay.
And whether that's got something to do with me not having access to kids when I was growing up, I don't know. But I found motherhood quite difficult. And
At the
once
beginning,
again, but this was a role that I was trying to morph into, but I didn't have the rule book. I didn't know
because
how.
there is no,
There is none.
there is
There
no
is none.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
Even if we're brought up by the best of parents, or
Yeah.
you know, we do the best, we still manage to effort up.
Yeah.
We know we really do.
Absolutely.
And you know what? It's funny because that you say that. I did a lot with my siblings when they were younger, so I thought when I got pregnant I'd have this down. Now I'm 15
Yeah.
and thought, sure, I can change nappies, I can feed kids, I can.
Yeah.
And for a very young mother, I was very maternal. Like, I mean, I looked at him with this adoration. Now, the reality of that for me, the first few weeks, I was shell shocked.
Yeah.
Because even mine and my siblings didn't, what's the word I'm looking for, Chelsea, didn't give me the tools that I needed to be this young. Like, I think
Yeah.
it up in the night, how many times colic for 7 weeks.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting on the stairs crying, looking at this child, not knowing what to do.
Not
And
knowing.
my
Yeah.
ma coming out and saying, give me him, and
Yeah.
go back up to bed, and just thinking, oh my
But
God.
you're still a child yourself.
I'm still a child. And I was always terrified of the dark, Chelsea. I don't think I've ever said this before. So I always slept with lights on, and I slept with my mother right through my whole pregnancy on my first son. She used to feel him kicking him. You know, I was really big. I was very enmeshed with my mother, you know, relationship wise. And I did up the top room when I got pregnant. And when I had him, the cot was put up there. I was still afraid up in that top room after giving birth to a child of the dark.
Yeah.
And waking up and leaving on lights. Like, that will show you how childlike I still was, that I was still scared. I've always been afraid of the dark.
Yeah.
I still have nights where I leave my lamp on.
Yeah.
And when I wake up in the morning, switched off, I've obviously done it in sleep, you know. But yeah, when I think back, like, there's an overwhelming feeling of sadness as to this young person that was trying to be a mother but didn't know how, and then was crying out for stability and structure and guidance ourselves at that age.
Yeah, absolutely. And also having these children, babies,
people
that
you
are
brought into the
dependent.
world.
Yeah.
So did it happen for you organically then, or what was the process for you?
I think once again, I just figured it out. I morphed into being the mother. I morphed into this new role.
You were putting on the mask
The
again.
mask. Yeah, the mask.
Did your husband notice, Chelsea?
Honestly, I don't think he had the capacity to notice anything outside of himself.
Okay.
So, I did marry a narcissistic man, very, very much so. But this was not such a big jump away from the environment that I grew up with my mother. So
again, the norm.
Yeah, and as crazy as it sounds, sometimes if you grow up with the instability, then you then can go on and create a relationship with somebody who is very much similar to
For sure.
what you grew up with.
Well, it's what we're comfortable in it.
But it's
You
what
know
the
it.
systems know.
We're familiar with it.
Yeah.
Going into the unknown is so scary, and then that would feel weird. At least you're familiar with this.
Yeah.
You know, but it's you hear this so much about people who grew up with narcissistic mothers that ends back up in narcissistic relationships. And I mean, if you're not exhausted from your childhood as it is, and then you enter into this and you bring more kids into the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
in another cycle of abuse.
If one thing will get you to introspect and to look at yourself, will be having those relationship dynamics, either as a child or romantically, because you start realizing, well, what's wrong with me?
But also, like, as I said, like, I was 18 when I got married. I was 28 when I left my first marriage. So that's 10 years.
Mm.
And in those 10 years, you grow up a lot.
Yeah.
So I got to the point where I had grown up. I had changed. I had become the mother. I had these responsibilities. And I got to the point where I'm too old for this shit. I can't do this anymore. I couldn't see any way out of the relationship. I couldn't see a safe way out of the relationship.
Okay.
Because of the personality my first husband was. There was so much unsafety in that relationship. I didn't know how I could get out. And my saving grace was that he found another woman. He ended up with another woman. And he was so preoccupied with her that me and the kids were able to exit stage left. We were able to put a little bit of distance.
It was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were you relieved?
Absolutely.
Chelsea, was there a part of you that?
She was the best thing that ever happened. She was the best thing that ever happened to me. And
I absolutely love that you say that. I really, really do.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously you go through the emotions. I mean, you like any divorce, even one that you want to happen, is still
upheaval.
An upheaval.
It's still
for
an
yourself, your children, your family, your way of life. Like obviously I had to leave my home and my animals again and all of these things. And I had
Was that bringing up stuff from the childhood? Did that bring everything back up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I was recreating my idyllic childhood. So I bought property. I had horses again. I was raising my kids in a similar way, but just with more access to people and closer to the towns and things like that.
So given the things you were denied.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is that I was trying to create this idyllic life with a person that I couldn't have that with.
It was like he was part of the illusion of what you were trying to create, the new reality and the stuff that, but he wasn't, he didn't want to be part of that.
He was very happy for me to be the wife and be the mother and to portray this illusion of a family.
But behind
closed doors, that was not what it was like.
You hear that so much.
Yeah. And because I had a system that was wired for fawning. I never wanted to tell my parents how bad things were. I never wanted to tell my family what I was actually going through, the level of abuse that was happening. And so I would mask for him.
To save him, to save face for him. Because you didn't want people thinking ill of him.
Yeah.
So you were helping him create the illusion.
Yeah, I was enabling this this person.
I think to challenge though when you have children and when you have it for life and you're going to be constantly faced with, brick wall and it's exhausting, and then I think you start choosing where to put your energy by that stage with that would it be like that for you, Chelsea, that you would just like
absolutely. I was so exhausted from surviving that marriage that by the time I got out of it, I only had the capacity to exist. I moved to a town that was 100 kilometers away.
Okay.
And that gave a 100-kilometer buffer between my kids and I and his temper. Okay. So he couldn't just lose his shit and turn up on my door 5 minutes later. If I did something he didn't like, there was time for him to cool down. Or time for me to create some safety if I felt that I needed it.
Prepare for it.
Yeah. And also that year that I was away, I got to meet people as me. not as somebody's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knew him. Nobody knew me. And I was able to meet people as Chelsea. Even though I didn't know who I was, it was the first time I got to meet somebody
You didn't have to be.
that kiss. I didn't have to be.
Yeah. Isn't it great when we can present ourselves to the world without having to be whatever, whether it's a wife, whether it's a mother, whether it's and just be Lisa. And like you said, I don't even know who she is.
Yeah.
But I'm not pretending to be anybody else. I'm putting on a costume or wearing this stuff that I don't.
Just recovering.
Yeah. And I think that's when you start to feel the nervous system relax a little bit, or just a little bit of peace, and then you're like, actually, I'm feeling like I can breathe.
To a certain degree, I did start to become aware of that, but for me, I still had another relationship and more children to have to finally realize who I was.
Okay, so you are still on the process.
Yeah. So if you can imagine, I separated from, I divorced my first husband, lived alone with my kids for a while, and then I felt safe enough to move back to an area where I was from.
Okay.
And so I was now dealing with the aftermath of the divorce, the new relationship that he was in, and the reality of sharing custody with somebody who is not only a challenge, but is
making life more difficult than it ever needs to be because of his way of being.
Which then goes on to affect the kids.
The domino effect.
The domino effect, And so that in itself, I wasn't at the point in my life where I could really, really find out who I was. I was still living from survival. I was living from survival for my children, for myself, but also building another life, meeting another man, eventually getting married, eventually having a business and having more children. So I'm doing all of this from a place of complete dysregulation. So I'm
it was like, if I create another part of life here, like get married, have more kids, I can forget about it. So it's like you're adding more on, though. You're not giving any time. And isn't that what we do? Kids who have trauma, we start piling on.
Right, we think we can keep everything
running from ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like, if I grab this new relationship, if I do this, it's always nice, it's always more busy, giving us so much more to do then, because now you have like two families that you have to deal with. This another man that you have to meet his needs, mask comes back out.
And I remember early on with my second husband, like, I knew he could never hurt me. And that was such a big thing for me.
Was that like a bonus after your first husband, Haley?
It was a bonus.
Isn't it slightly sad though that we look at it like that?
Know.
Isn't it really sad?
It's terribly unfair. It's terribly unfair to him.
Yes, this one isn't violent. He's not going to kick the shit out of me. So I should be grateful and I should be happy. It's bizarre.
But the funny thing is, like, my first husband, he always had a line in the sand that he wouldn't cross.
Okay.
And that was the physical.
Because he's self-image, he was never going to be a wife beater.
But so it was emotional. It was terror. But he did, however, cross that line in his second marriage. He was always going,
okay.
And my kids were witness to a lot of that. So that's a very hard thing to navigate. And to protect your children from.
Well, it's going to leave its mark, children witnessing that.
Yeah.
Any type of violence, I know, when you witness as a young child, stays. And you have to walk through it.
And that's it. And that has then had a flow-on effect into their own lives. And so with my second marriage, and I was with that man for 10 years.
Okay.
So
you would have been 38 then in this, so you were...
let me figure it. Yeah. So yeah, I was 42 when my 41, 42 when my second marriage ended.
Okay.
So the 12 years before that, I was in this new relationship, and there was some very, very happy times. There were some beautiful moments. I mean, we had shared interests. We were running a business. I, once again, masking, I became a jeweler. Like I did my apprenticeship.
I'm sorry for that.
It's
like, what would you like me to be today?
Yes.
Who?
are today?
I can be anything you want me to be.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Chelsea.
Yeah. So I did a 3-year apprenticeship. I became a manufacturing jeweler.
Wow.
So to do the metal work, and I loved it. But mostly I was putting on another coat of the person who was worthy, the person who would be loved, the person who had value.
You'll admire me if I, because look at me, look, I can do this, and I'm very good at it.
Yeah.
And that will make you love me more.
Absolutely.
And you know, I so understand it.
Yeah.
You know how far we're willing to go.
I know.
For validation.
Yeah. And it's not even a conscious decision.
It really isn't.
It really isn't a conscious decision. It's not manipulative. It's not okay, I'm going to be this, so this person will now love me.
No, it feels, it's like it's very organic.
It feels very organic.
Yeah, you don't know until you start doing this work and you look back in hindsight and you start to see, how could I be that and then be that? And I know we're growing, but I wasn't doing it for me, really. I was doing it so this person would love me more. And this person never even asked me to do it, but I just thought it'd be...
Yeah, like and that's the thing, like, they say hindsight's 20/20. And I do believe that. You have to live your life forward and you understand it backwards. So it's not until you get to a relative... Yeah, I think that's when you get to a point in your life, and for a lot of women that comes between, say, 40 and 60, like we start to...
Say that again from me. You have to live your life forward, but you understand.
But I understand it backwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
And while we're living it, and a lot of that is living from a place of what you would consider to be an unconscious response. Like, so that there is no conscious plan to change into a new person. It's just something I could do because it's how I had adapted through life. Yes. I changed for the first time when I was 10, when I went to the school and I was getting bullied. So that change brought me a sense of safety and connection and community. And then all the stages of my life, it's like I've morphed into this different person. And so by the end of that marriage, I remember turning 40. And I remember thinking, once again, this is not okay. There's nothing wrong as such. It's a good marriage. I had a good business, great children, and from the outside, everything looked perfect. And I felt like, how could I be at this place when I thought I had done everything so right?
Why am I feeling this way?
Why am I at this place when I feel like I've done everything I can, made all the right choices, but still something's not there. And that something that wasn't there was me. I wasn't there.
Chelsea, you know what? I absolutely love that. Because I remember moments where life was really good and I had a happy life and the children were really well. Been really down and sort of dark, and I remember my husband saying, "What's wrong with you?" I don't know. And he said, why don't you go and get some counselling? You obviously need to walk through some stuff. And what you've described there, what was missing was me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember always talking to him about I want to go back to school. I wanted more for myself. I think I was always looking to find myself. And I've said this on the podcast before, and losing him, I got to find me.
Yeah.
So comfortable in that and so loved. But there was always something missing. But you've just said it for me there. It was me.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was. I knew I was performing, but not consciously.
No.
Just doing what I thought.
Yeah.
I know he likes, and he's so good to me, and but that's what it was. You just said it, and I've had an aha moment. I was missing from that.
Yeah.
There was snippets of me coming through, but they couldn't last very long in the environment, if you know what I mean, because I was at that putting on all these masks, and this is who I am, and this is who I have to be, and that authentically, I think it would have been very difficult to just be me in that environment, that I was in.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that then.
No.
I've literally just had a moment.
Yeah, sometimes we don't know. And sometimes you don't know until your system and your environment's safe enough for you to receive that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even coming out of my second marriage, that was when I made a conscious decision that I didn't know myself and I need to get to know her. She's worthy of knowing. I'm worthy of knowing.
So this was at about this is how you started with this.
Between I left when I was around about 41, 42. And that was when I actually realized at first, for me, it didn't start with understanding of the nervous system or anything like that.
Yeah.
For me, it started with understanding my pleasure.
Okay.
So when I realized that I had been masking also with pleasure. So I had the space and the capacity to start to get to know and understand my body, to understand and know about my own arousal, what I liked, what I didn't like. And this is all outside of a relationship. I've never had the space to do that, or the language, or the knowledge, or the support to get to know myself in that way.
Yeah, I like, now that you're even saying that, like, that wasn't even ever a thought for me. And I know we have had some conversations that part of the problem, or like even now I'm struggling to find the words for it, because I never thought of getting to know myself in that way. I didn't think that was a job of mine. I thought it was someone else's. That's how I feel. Even when you were talking, I was like, what? That was my job to know of the pleasure.
I know. I was shocked and horrified when one of my teachers said to me, your orgasm is your responsibility.
Did you get this in school?
In some of my in some of the learnings that I've done, I did have it. No, not in school.
I was going to say, what?
Sex education wasn't a thing, really. But even back in Australia in the 90s when I was growing up, it was, this is how to do it. Now don't go and do it. Abstinence is,
probably very similar for us. So.
Anatomy, and especially female anatomy, that was not taught.
No.
You may have had a vague awareness of it, but for me, like, I did not know I had a vulva until I was probably 42, 44.
You spoke about this.
I know.
I was like, I didn't know I had a vulva till a few years ago.
I didn't know what a vulva was.
I thought everything was I thought it was just a vagina.
Exactly.
And I know the podcast probably feels like it's gone from all these emotional things to, but this is work that Chelsea actually does. And I've had some conversations. I was like, Chelsea, even saying these words, I don't feel I feel I feel uncomfortable with the language, and I said this to you, and I suppose I'm going to say it now because I know we're going to use it a bit more
Absolutely.
now. But I said to you, I think on a whole for Irish people, and I look at even my group of friends and talking about whether it be masturbation, which wouldn't come up very often, and like vulva and clitoris. I mean, I'm saying it and I'm lowering my voice when I'm saying it even right now, Chelsea. But it is still very uncomfortable, and I don't think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's groups of people who talk about it and have parties and do all these things. But from my experience, it's a taboo subject, and we find it difficult to talk about.
And it wasn't a part of my upbringing or my group or anything like that.
I don't imagine it was, Chelsea, from what you just told us.
So, I mean, as I said, it wasn't until my 40s, and from most of my early to mid 40s, I have spent getting to know myself.
What did you go to a class? Like, how did, because I'm even thinking how you thought about that. Because as I said, I thought that was someone else's responsibility. Didn't think it was mine. And then if I did realize it was mine, I'm trying to think where I went after that without that thought.
Yeah.
So what did you do? Did you find the class or?
I there is a company in Australia. It's called the Only Pleasure Palace, and they sell crystal wands, they call them. So basically a crystal dildo. And so I, in the safety of my own home, in my own time, I got to rediscover myself and who I was. So within that safety that I created for myself, I expanded on what pleasure is.
And what is that?
Well, that can be anything from thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations. Like, we have such a limited understanding of pleasure and also orgasm. Like, orgasm, there's a big difference about being orgasmic and having an orgasm.
So what are the differences between orgasmic and having an orgasm?
Within, say, foreplay, either together with a partner or
by yourself.
Yeah, masturbation. Then, like, you can have a feeling of orgasm, but without the peak. So the pleasure. So the build-up. Pleasure, the build-up.
But
we were taught, or maybe not even taught, we just had this expectation that the climax was what it was all about.
That's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah, that's the peak.
Well, if not even yourself, you're trying to get in there.
That's your climax.
And that would be like, I spoke about this, like, I wouldn't even really care whether I did or not. That's sad, isn't it? Or I'd be more concerned that he would.
Yeah. That's
yeah, I think after I had 3 kids and I was in a relationship for a long time, that was never a priority. And we spoke about, and I speak about it to female friends. It's like, it feels like a duty.
Yeah.
And that's in that.
Okay.
And it feels like it's a chore at the end of the day when the last thing you want is one more chore.
Yeah.
All that you want is to sleep. Like, in that dynamic.
Yeah. And that brings a lot of pressure, brings a lot of shame. It brings a lot of...
not going to be in that orgasmic place if that's how you're feeling, like you're tired. And if you're doing that as a duty and as a chore, and if you're not even considering yourself in that. So no wonder we put on these pretend snores. I mastered a pretend snore. I remember telling people this and they were like, I was like, way, loads of people had that pretend snore. But I think of the latter. When it wasn't in that particular environment, and when I knew I wasn't having any more kids, and when it wasn't in the marriage dynamic, then I started to enjoy sex. And then it became more about me. But I would still say the ultimate goal is to please. Coming from a woman. And maybe not all women, this is just my experience.
Absolutely.
And I would consider myself a lot more than I did. but still would, and you described what this is to me, would have great foreplay and would be going to a place where I was very comfortable in, but then could end up in a place where, I didn't
know what I signed up for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've ended up here, and then maybe not feeling, what word am I looking to describe it? Not feeling after it like that was something amazing, more feeling a bit deflated or a heaviness, which I'm that's not the goal.
No, but that's not an uncommon feeling.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, especially if you are in a relationship or within a marriage, you've got possibly young kids to look after, you're probably working, you may be studying, like all of these things pile on, pile on, pile on. And I think that women can tend to feel responsible for everything.
I think so.
Including sex.
Yes.
Including sex.
Hence the penis envy that I talk about. That I still have. Because like at least they can fucking look forward to it. At the end of the day we're like, whichever, fuck off. All I want to do is sit.
Yeah.
And do nothing. But what does women do, Chelsea, in that scenario? Because like it's great to get to know yourself and want to know how to pleasure yourself and then be able to communicate, this is what I would like.
Communication is a huge thing.
But like I'm at a different stage now, all my kids is older, so I can communicate and I can say this is what I like, and I would still struggle with saying I'm too tired because I feel like, oh God, I don't want to say I'm too tired because
don't want to disappoint.
I don't want to disappoint. I still feel like I want to.
So that possibly comes back to people pleasing.
100%. Yeah.
And a lot of like those responses that we were talking about earlier, the fight, flight, freeze and fawn, we can sometimes fall into those things within our relationships. And sexually fawning it can be a thing where you tend to perhaps want to try things that you may not be on board with. That could be a fawn response. Having sex when you're not feeling like it could be another fawn response, because you don't want to hurt the other person. You don't want to be looked at as being uptight. You don't want to be difficult. Like there's all of these.
Maybe we should give the definition of fawning because we've brought up the word for most people who don't know. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So our nervous systems respond to stimulus. So our nervous system is constantly surveying our surroundings, internal and external, and it is deciding where our safety is. If we're safe, if we're unsafe, and then it is ready to react. So there's a difference between reaction and response. So to have a reactive nervous system there's your fight, flight, freeze and fawn. So that's very much coming from it's an unconscious thing that happens in the body. It's not a conscious process, and it's designed for survival.
Yeah, it's to protect us.
It's to protect us. Yeah. The freeze one is an adapted response. So it's a little bit freeze. It's a little bit flight sometimes. Like it's an adapted response, and what happens is that you can tend to, as we've discussed, put on the masks. It's more than people pleasing. People think, the fawn is just a people pleaser. It's actually less about consciously people pleasing and more about doing things unconsciously as a response to make yourself in some ways more loved, more valued, more.
If I do more.
Yes.
So it's always about if I do more, if I can be more. well, then
Yes.
I'll get the love and the validation and the
Yeah.
respect that I deserve.
Yeah.
That's the narrative playing in our heads.
Mhm.
Whereas to be is enough.
Yes.
And but
Yeah.
we're so unconsciously doing this so long
Yeah.
that it's what we feel like we have to do to be loved, to get
Yeah.
respect, to be validated, and to be seen,
To
and
be
to be
seen.
heard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most of us, for those children who have been traumatized
Mhm.
or have been in situations that wasn't great for us, that's like it's like a default setting
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's so many of us going around and just think, well, this is who I am.
Yeah.
I've always been a kind person. I've always jumped 10 feet for people. And
Yeah, that's it. But does that kindness leave you doing things that you don't want to do? Does that kindness make you make plans that you don't really want to go to? Like,
every time you choose to do that and choose that other person, you are
not choosing
neglecting, you're
yourself.
not choosing yourself.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, people who are doing so much don't want to be necessarily, but it is soothing them, Chelsea. That's the problem.
Oh,
Does it
there's always a
soothe them?
payoff.
Yeah, that
There's
it's
always a
soothing
payoff
them and giving
because
them.
and it's not. I'm not saying that in a way of criticizing. I'm
No.
saying that in a way of bringing awareness to it.
Yeah.
Because in my own life benefited from my freeze response. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Until the point where I had no growth left within that response.
And that's the only time that you changed
Yeah.
the response.
Yeah.
Is because it just wasn't working anymore.
It wasn't working anymore. I didn't know myself. I wasn't happy. Actually, I was so numbed out that I didn't even know I wasn't happy, if you know what I mean. Like
You were just in this natural
pretending.
state.
Yeah.
Well, natural is the wrong word to say, but it felt like nearly a
It
natural.
felt like your baseline.
A baseline.
It
That's
felt like your
much better.
baseline. And I didn't think I was worth of going above my baseline. So I think, as I said, these responses are something that happens unconsciously.
Yeah.
But what I did consciously do was start to get to know my body, start to get to know my nervous system. But I also got the help I needed. I did a few different courses for women. So to help me to understand my own anatomy, to help me understand my own arousal, to understand agency and consent, to understand the menstrual cycle. We're quite cyclical beings, and our hormonal response over a month is very different to a man's hormone response. A man has a 24-hour cycle hormonally, whereas women have a 30-day, depending on what their cycle is, a hormonal response. So that's why hormones can fluctuate and moods can fluctuate and all of these things. Biologically, we're very different to men. But we still expect ourselves to perform as a man. There's this level of expectation of, and the way I best heard it once is that we become the men that we need. We as women can become the man that we need. How does that sit with you?
Become the man that we need. I feel so awful. My God, that will take a while to sit with me. And we become the men that we need. Like most weeks, I feel overworked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I said something to you, Chelsea. I don't know what's come over me in the last probably few months, maybe a year, where Like the thought of sex feels like an absolute chore.
Mm.
All as I want to do at the end of the day is sit down and eat a bowl of fruit and watch a bit of Netflix. And I said to you, I hope I don't stay like that. But it just gets so full, your life, and looking after yourself can be a full-time job without everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Holistically, when you look at the areas that need taken care of, you can feel pretty worn down by the end of the day. And I think that can be having a good day, eating well, exercising, doing whatever you need to do, whether it's academics or work-wise. And it just feels like at the end of the day, the last thing I'm thinking about is wanting to pleasure myself, to have someone else do that for me.
It having to become another thing that you have to do.
That's the thing. So when we learn about the work that you've done, did that shift that for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It did shift it for me. Pleasure and my body became more about me slowing down.
Okay.
More about becoming more present. More about my breath and being in my body.
So I would have never associated that to what you were talking about.
Yeah. Because even in
it's
sex,
like the missing link, isn't it?
Yeah, even during sex, within my earlier experiences, my body was physically present, but my mind could have been off doing the washing up or doing the laundry, or I was not actually physically present.
Well, let's get this over with so I can move on to the next thing that I have to do.
So it wasn't about adding more. It wasn't about like I was learning more, but I was taking the performance out of it. I was slowing down. I was doing less, but becoming more aware of the sensation. A lot of people.
I'm starting to click.
Yeah.
And
what are you feeling?
I'm feeling like I have been looking at it all wrong. I'm feeling it all wrong. It feels like something to get through rather than something to feel.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking there would be times where I'd be thinking this would be nice. Sometimes it would be slow and sensual and I'd have a nice time with that, but more often than not, because you're in chore mode, it's a chore, or I want to just watch a movie or go to bed and it will be the doing of it, but never the feeling of it. But if you slowed it down and you are breathing and you are really present, it could become not a chore.
Absolutely.
So that's what's happening as you're talking.
It becomes a place to get to know yourself. And if there's one thing I would say is that while you're trying to, any woman that's listening to this and wanting to reconnect with yourself, for a little while, just give the vibrators a pause. I'm not saying that they are not of value. They are definitely of value. But while you are trying to get to know yourself, you don't want that overstimulation.
Okay.
So
it's more sensual, being present, breathing. Would it be more touch?
Yeah. But also sometimes the vibrators can bring you to a quick climax.
Okay.
It's not about the climax. It's not about the climax. It's about slowing down, listening to your body. If you climax or if you don't,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. So when I talk about self-pleasure, that's why I talk about self-pleasure as opposed to masturbation. So there's no end goal. And that sensuality and pleasure, like I would love to take the word orgasm and just completely stretch it. What is an orgasm? And what makes the peak the actual goal? So, and this is where we move into that understanding of being orgasmic, of it being a state that you can flow with, that you allow to unwind, and you allow it to have highs, you allow it to have lows. Like there's a real sense of coming back to your and if you go to sleep at the end of it without climaxing, great. That means you've come into a state where you're relaxed and your body has let go. Like there is so much
Takes the pressure, expectation, performance.
Yeah.
No wonder we view it as a chore.
Yeah, we can do, yeah.
And I know I'm speaking for...
And sometimes we can view it as it can be an unconscious distraction.
Well, it's funny because a lot of people, particularly people that has, say, comes out of one addiction, like, alcohol or whether it's drugs, sex can replace that.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is you're getting the dopamine hit. It's a form of escapism to take you away from maybe, because it's very much then about the performance and what's happening in the now.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say a lot of people, and you will hear young men speaking about it, and even probably in my own experience, it would have been like going from one addiction to another.
Yeah.
And using that as what I was using before for the escapism, to take myself out of self, to take myself out of the reality I was currently in. So I think you got to be really cautious with it too.
Yeah.
So how do you know whether you're using it for escapism to hence using it for pleasure, self-pleasure, and for slowing down? Because it's not something I think a lot of us think about. I'm going to have sex to slow down.
Yeah. I think it's a process.
Okay.
I do think it's a process. And from like my early 40s to now, it's been a process of getting to know myself. So how would I know that it's a distraction or from one addiction to another? Probably with maybe how it shows up in your life.
Okay.
Like how it shows up in your relationships, how it where it is in your psyche. Is it prominent? Is it something that's more of a passing thought?
Yes, because I suppose most addictions are the driving force of the day.
But once again, you don't want to shame people. The thing that closes people down is shame. And sex and pleasure and all of these things is such a loaded subject. I mean, some people can come to this from a place of abuse. Some people can come to this from a place of lack of education, lack of awareness. You don't want to shame people for those things. Like where you're at is where you're at. And so starting from that place and getting to know, what I would say is, if you feel like you're unregulated in any area of your life, then get some help. Get someone who you trust. That might be a therapist. That may be somebody closer. But talk. Have these conversations.
Yeah.
Shame is built in silence. And I think that having that way of knowing, other people feel this too. I'm not the only one.
Really helps, Chelsea.
I'm not fucked up.
Just not like what we spoke about. What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
And you've so many Irish people that the beliefs of the Catholic Church has been passed on.
Yeah.
I think we've all experienced that. I think I said to you, I remember watching a scene from Dirty Dancing with my nana, and they were binding on one another in the scene, and she made me put my head behind her back. So I equaled that to that dancing is wrong, it's dirty, I'm not supposed to do it. Stuff like that stays with us. No one spoke about sex. We never seen parents cuddle, kissing. So it's very much when you are starting to have the experiences that, like, one night stand, you would definitely feel like you are bad, wrong.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know even growing up, right, if you had more than 1, 2, 3 partners, you would start getting the name of slag, and so all this equals to negativity.
Absolutely.
And then we're women who has not got a fucking clue about our own bodies.
Absolutely. And to go off on a slightly different topic, the porn industry, that often is the place that expectations are created. And expectations about how sex should be.
And how
women should be treated.
And how men should be performing.
How men should be performing. And also how the anatomy should look. And porn affects women and also men. It changes their perception of what is normal.
And maybe let's say the way Hollywood movies glamorizes criminality, like mafia films, porn is glamorizing how sex should look and how our parts should look. Is that what?
Yes, that's basically what I'm saying. And also often, unfortunately, this is our children's, as in when they're teenagers and they start to become curious, that is their first influence, because the parents don't know how to have the conversations.
It's
so that framework is being set. So the young boys and the young girls that are starting to become sexually active, starting to go into relationships, that's their baseline, that's their understanding. And it can have a big influence on how a woman feels about her appearance. And there is something called labiaplasty, which is the...
I saw that in the folder. I was like, what is this word?
So labiaplasty, it's surgical... Yes. So to change the outer appearance of your vulva. So vulvas are not
symmetrical. There's a lot of women actually get this done.
Yeah. And I'm not, once again, this is not a criticism, this is not a judgment. Why I love to teach anatomy is not to change somebody's mind about something, but with knowledge comes choice.
Yes.
And when I teach anatomy, when I teach about arousal, it's about having the knowledge, having the wisdom, being informed. And I think also it's about having those uncomfortable conversations, starting those conversations. And we, as women, we often don't have a frame of reference of what is considered to be normal as to how our vulvas appear. And we often don't have anyone to go to. We don't. And because of the influence of porn, we're often looking at it through a masculine lens. What
it should look like.
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny because I'm thinking this might affect the youth more than people my age group. And I don't know if this is coming from my own frame of reference. I don't fucking care how it looks. You know what I mean? It's not hanging out nonsense, which I'm more worried about coming into my 40s. I see myself aging and I get more wrinkles and my grey hair. But I'm just wondering, that's my experience. I am not, I definitely wouldn't call myself a dolly bird in any stretch of the imagination. My sister would give me stick and sound like someone from the fields when she looks at me. But I guess for some people, and particularly younger people, it is important, and especially if people are actually physically having these surgeries. And what was that thing about Diamantes? Was that people actually getting...
Oh, yeah, vajas.
Something like that. And I was like, is this a thing? And so it is a thing, and people, it should look a certain way. I don't know how it's... No, I'm going to be really honest here. I don't know how it's supposed to look, so that'll tell you how much I know.
They're all different.
Okay.
Every vulva is different.
Okay.
Every vulva is different.
But is it like the way Hollywood does things? It's supposed... There's one now that's like
being glamorized.
Being glamorized. And if you check yours and it fucking doesn't look like this glamorized one, you think there's something wrong with it.
But that's marketing.
Yes. Oh my God.
How better?
Leave us alone, please.
How better to make a woman feel unsure of herself or doubtful, or than to idolize this one thing and to say, if you're different,
There's something wrong with you.
there's something wrong with you.
Like
But it's interesting you say that this is probably more relevant to younger women. The thing that is often not understood is that as a woman ages, her vulva can change.
Really?
Yeah. And
For the better or for the worse?
well,
Or is that no? There's no better. Or there's no
there's
worse.
something known as astrophy. So that is like as a woman ages, especially after menopause, when we've got less estrogen in our system. So the vulva can kind of shrink back a little bit. And that's why pleasure, and especially bringing the blood flow to these areas, is so important.
Okay.
So to self pleasure or do a massage, that will bring blood flow, and it brings the blood flow and energy into those parts that, if you can imagine, it's not as dramatic, but it's similar to like a dieback. They call it an astrophy. So the it starts to pull back, and the vulva can change, especially your inner labia.
So is that just like the way like the outside of ourselves starts to sort of wither a little bit and starts to ages?
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going on internally for us. But by the massaging and the exercise, it brings the blood flow, and we can get ourselves to that nice place that might have become a bit difficult, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, no, because then so that's sort of layman terms for me to understand. But you see how little information I have as a 44-year-old woman.
Information we all have.
Yeah.
I wasn't born with this information. A lot of this shocked and, in a way, horrified me when I was learning it.
And to be honest, Chelsea, I still feel, I don't know how it will be perceived. But I do think I'm champion women, and I always do. I do think we have it a bit tougher than the guys do in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
So I think any of these conversations that can help us find ourselves and to be authentic and to fulfill ourselves rather than constantly looking externally for validation, for love, for pleasure. The more we can do this for ourselves, and the younger we can start thinking like this, I think the easier life will become for us. I have spent half a life, if I'm lucky, looking for validation, love, security. I didn't think pleasure was my job. I thought it was someone else's job. So therefore, if I look better, if I dress better, if I'm what's the word I'm looking for? Promiscuous, or well, then I'll have your attention. But if I could have the way I think now, like to be more comfortable in myself, to be meeting my own needs, to know I'm enough, to look at a day and say, well, I'm not feeling guilty that I'm going to make this day about me.
No.
This is the last part, like what you're discussing here, because I've never, in all the areas that I'm looking to heal, talk therapy, somatic work, exercise, this is the very last area that I would consider to go to holistically help myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. But this area of, as you were saying,
the feminine, we could call it. Yeah.
This then has an impact into your relationships. So, like, I've brought my learning into my relationship.
And I'm asking a rhetorical question, has this benefited in a positive way for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because by knowing my body, by knowing my likes, my dislikes, understanding the anatomy of arousal, like that's a big subject within itself. And that can be influenced by everything from the temperature of the room to how much you've got going on in your life. So to bring all of that awareness into my relationship, it helps me to communicate how I'm feeling. It helps me to communicate when I'm good, when I'm not so great. And uh, it's allowed me to get the language that I need and the confidence and to believe that I have a right to see
To
this
discuss
person.
this.
Yeah.
How is it reciprocated? And I'm asking this because I have felt during my last relationship, if I wasn't in the humour
Mm-hmm.
because I was so overwhelmed with what was going on in my life at that particular week or day,
Yeah.
but still would want to satisfy, because if I didn't, if I did it,
Yeah.
I felt like I betrayed myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a hard conversation, I'm too overwhelmed. I'm not feeling sexy. I don't want to I don't have the capacity. I'm not feeling like I can do you or me any justice.
Yeah.
I would leave feeling guilty also. So, like with that, I'd say to myself, just do it and have the guilt of doing it
Get it
and
over and done with.
get it over and done with, and then betray your own set of needs rather than his.
Mm.
So I'd rather feel bad about letting myself down than this person. But I'm wondering if I could communicate like what you spoke about.
What I'm talking about doesn't happen in isolation.
Mm.
So you need someone to meet you where you're at.
Mm.
You need somebody who's going to approach these parts of the relationship with curiosity as opposed to, she's having a go at me.
Mm.
So if you have a relationship that has that sort of dynamics with a little bit of understanding, a lot of communication, and knowing that this doesn't live in isolation. Everything we've talked about shows up in other aspects of your life. Often they manifest in the bedroom,
Yes.
but then that's the manifestation of it.
It's happening in all the areas.
Yes.
So it's not isolated
It's not
to that.
isolated.
So the feelings that you're having in this department, you can be fucking more than sure you're having them in the other areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little bit lost there for a second,
Yeah.
Chelsea, but I totally, and that is so true. And that's,
Yeah.
that's where you have to ask yourself the big questions, isn't it?
Yeah. Sometimes there's a lot of big questions.
Yeah.
But I do believe in somatic tools. I believe in finding the tools to help you regulate your system. Like even when I was studying, I got to a place where I loved what I was studying, but I couldn't submit my work on time. There was something. And it drove me crazy. I couldn't work out why I love this so much, but I just couldn't get to the last bit. I could get to 80, 90%. And it was my partner who, as we started to talk, I started to have an awareness that my brain is not the same as everyone else's. I had been so busy masking through my life, I didn't even realize that I had ADHD.
Okay, Chelsea.
So, and that explains the hypervigilant. It explains the masking. It explains the when I want to research a topic to within an inch of its life, the hyperfixation. I didn't realize for all of this time that I was living with something that changed the way I perceive the world. And it was only by slowing down and coming back to myself that I realized this was going on for me. And I went and seen a doctor and I got put on the medication for a year.
Okay.
But in that year, I also found a lot of tools. I discovered the breath work, the somatic work, the sound, the moving of the body. all of these tools to help myself get regulated. And by the end of that year of being on medication, I had lost so much of who I was. I had become numb inside that I went off the medication, but I then had the tools to know
regulate
when I was unregulated. I had the tools to know I was unregulated and how to bring myself back. Like we've spoken previously about that window of tolerance. That happy place where your nervous system is not either hyper or hypo. And it's increasing that window of tolerance. So,
and we do that over time to process.
Yes, yeah. So everything we've spoken
so
about.
It's the same.
It's the same thing.
Same thing for everything.
Yeah.
Why do you think, well, again, I know like that this is the last part for women that we look at. Like I'll do the talk therapy, I'll do the somatics, I'll do the this and I'll do the that. And this area, and if I'm totally honest with you, Chelsea, even having read the folder that you gave me and you spoke about starting classes, in my mind, I was like, I don't know whether I want to do this. Now, this is someone who I've been having conversations, but through this conversation, I'm like, actually, why am I abiding this part of myself? Why am I so against figuring out what I like and slowing down? And like, I mean, it's where I want to be, but I'm very resistant this area. And I think it's because of many things. I think it's because we don't speak about it. It was never spoken about, even with the group of friends that I would have. Be very minimal as to how it speaks. So I think there's a lot of reasons why I would be resistant. But I'm too curious not to try.
Curiosity is a wonderful thing.
Well, it really helps you progress and helps you grow and helps you figure out stuff, to be curious. So, and if you want, I know we're on 145.
Wow.
I know. It's so interesting though. And this one, because I didn't know anything about, like I'm learning as you're talking. But you do want to start some, what would we call them, classes, or what do we call them?
So, what I do is I work with
workshops. That's
so either a women's circle or workshops. Then I also do one-on-one sessions with women that want to go a little bit deeper.
And if people want to contact you, so we don't forget, because they can contact you through
probably Instagram.
And what are you on Instagram?
It's
Chels
_Terry_women's_wellness. So you might put that in the right.
If anyone wanted to contact on Taylor Waltz.
Unfortunately, all of my socials, I came here in September, and in October, all of my content got deleted. So I'm having to rebuild that. But that's not an unusual thing to happen to somebody who is doing this sort of work. It went against the society, what's what I'm looking for?
The Instagram, like the people that can ban you.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I lost everything overnight, which really forced me to sit with it. I decided to wait a good year, or not quite a year, to start my Instagram back up, because I wanted to sit with what that regulation and what that restriction around my work looked like. And why my content was banned and was restricted, like, and how important this work is.
So what will stop them again? Did you have to change how you do things or what you post? Or
I think I probably have to to change some of the things.
Do you think? Because I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm really not. I just have enough to be worrying about, like in my own micro life that I'm managing. So do you think that there's something? Do you think it's just because we were using words like vulva and clitoris and vagina?
I think they were
flash words that.
Yeah.
So it's nothing about they're trying to suppress us as women.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, because I'm not one of those. I don't think. I just think the language.
The language?
would be the
Yeah.
problem on social media.
So yeah, you can find me on. I do have a website as well.
Okay.
That is Chelsea Terry Women's Wellness.
Okay.
And on that website, it talks more about the body work I do. So
Okay.
the pelvic work, the womb hara, and some of the more hands-on work that I do.
So you would be a masseuse
In a way.
in a way, okay.
Yeah.
But it's all working with
Yeah. So the womb hara, so that's a beautiful 2-hour process, 2.5-hour process.
what does that involve, Chelsea? I've never heard of it before.
So the womb and the hara. So with that massage, well, it is a massage. We start working on the back first, and we work on the sacrum and the coccyx all the way out the back. It's working a lot with like the pudendal nerve. The pudendal nerve and the coccyx are quite enmeshed.
Okay.
So there are some points within that you can bring a sense of what am I looking for? A sense of release of the body holding.
Don't they say a lot of women hold and store in the pelvis?
Yes. Yeah. Same with the womb. When I get to the womb part of the massage, we're working on the body to release stored memories, stored experiences. So basically the work that I do is working to bring awareness to the section we're working on, and B, to release the things that are stored.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much like that. We're hearing so much about, and I brought up a lot of times, and it's because I feel like this is going to be the next thing for people. The body keeps the score, and
yes,
the Bezel van der Clock, which is amazing work. And I definitely think, you know, as women, we do hold it in certain parts of it, and we find we all have the same alias, you know, problems, as we get older. And you know, as Gabor Mate said, working with all these people, they had the one thread running through them as the life experiences, people pleasers, yes people, they were carers, you didn't know how to say no. And they all ended up with the one types of, whether it was cancers or whether it was, autoimmune diseases. That's what I was looking for.
So sometimes these things we're working with are the manifestations of they're keeping it all together, basically. And whether that's through people pleasing, all of these things, they have a physical effect on the body. And it's a beautiful process.
It's something that I'm looking forward to, and I know you're looking probably in North County Dublin, and you're looking in the inner city to start it.
I'm in Ballybock, and I'm
so at the
to
minute
secure a place to work out of, and with women's circles, and also with workshops. And then as people begin to know who I am and want to work with me one-on-one, it'll develop into that as well. And I have a lot of different things in my toolkit. I mean, I've had an interest in spirituality and holistics and now somatics for nearly 30 years. And
long time, Chelsea.
Yeah. And so there's a lot I can draw from, and mostly it's meeting people where they're at, and some of the work that I do will look different based on the individual.
Yeah, so it's nearly like a tailored plan for each person, meeting them where they're at.
It can be, yeah. And the workshops are great because that's where we discover we're not alone. That's where we discover.
The group is amazing for that, isn't it? And I know I always bring it up because it's the same. It's in addiction. It's the group support, aftercare programs, meetings that really helps people identify with one another. Takes away the shame because we start sharing. It's a safe space. It's like-minded people. And once one starts to share, is brave enough and courageous enough to share their stuff, you'll find everyone is like, that happened to me. I had that experience. That's how I feel. And with that is a little community of people then that starts to grow because they're not silent anymore. They're breaking down the barriers to shame.
Absolutely.
And if I can just add, Chelsea, before we finish up, I'll try to keep it with the 2 hours for people. We could talk for hours. It's always the same. But for me, I met you through Keith, and I did a bit of the group book, yourself and Keith, and for holding space. Like, I mean, there's definitely something about people who do this work. You know, you have this beautiful aura that makes people feel you should do. And I know there's people out there that probably are in the wrong line, but for you and Keith, you really do hold that space. And this part is a part that I would have resisted and not for, I don't know, you know, certainly not now as I'm thinking of it. And I was, when we started speaking about it, I was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even saying the words, I started to whisper in the car. And I was able to share a lot of stuff that I felt there was something wrong with me. And I had a lot of shame. And I thought by sharing the experiences, it was a bad reflection on the men I was speaking about, whether it was my husband or whether it was my partner after that. And so having these conversations, it's no disrespect to these people.
Absolutely.
And it's allowed me more to look at my role. The same like what therapy does for you. It's your role in how we present to people. And, you know, I don't think I ever thought about it too much, that about pleasuring myself and what that would look like and the effects that would have for me and the people in my life, you know, my partner. Or so I thought it was their job. I really did, Chelsea.
Yeah.
And now it's like what's happened to me the last few years. Doing work on myself has been able to flip my thinking. We're very rigid when we go up with something, and to change that is really difficult.
Yeah.
But I really want to thank you for introducing this to me, and for, I wouldn't say breaking through the whole barrier for me right yet, because I know it's a process, like you said.
It really is.
But for certainly putting a fist through it and allowing me to open up the light.
That's it. It's like peeling an onion.
Exactly.
Multiple layers.
Yeah, that was very long-winded because I was finding it difficult to get to where I wanted to get. But you have, and it's great. People come into your life all the time and can open doors for you.
It just takes one person
to
be willing to sit there and start the uncomfortable conversation. So, and to do that from a place of allowing somebody just to be seen, to be held, to be supported without criticism. Like, this is an uncomfortable conversation to have, and I understand that, and I respect that. And as you said, this may or may not land with people depending on what they.
I think just my concerns are just being Irish for starters, and what would you say though to women? Because I know, and you can probably hear me struggling like to find what I'm trying to say. I am going to, you know, get a bit more curious about that, because the amount of things that I entered into with fear and the unknown, that has been nothing but productive for me in the last few years, because I took the chance to be brave or to be curious, to jump in to something I didn't know. And this is going to be no different for me. But I do trust you. I trust what you're saying. You've given a beautiful account of your life, difficult at times, and I'm sure quite vulnerable, you know, sharing certain, but you were very honest. So I think that's where we begin to trust people, and someone can give us an insight into their experience, their lived experience, and be honest with it.
Yeah.
Why would we not never trust you to know that the work that you do helps us?
I do also advocate for women's right to challenge what I say, to run it through their own filters. Like, women, we are so used to being told what to do. I do I would always advise women to be discerning with who they work with.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
It's an industry,
Mm.
and you've always got to know that who you're going to is coming from a good place, from a place where they've done their own work, they've had their own journey. And my way of teaching is not everyone's way of teaching.
Mm.
And so I think it's really important for women to trust their own intuition, trust their own judgment, trust their own body's wisdom. Yeah. So,
but the only way we'll know is by actually having the experience of sitting in a workshop and having the feelings and feeling the changes and the shifts. I'll say shifts at the beginning.
Yeah,
you feel it shifts.
I often think of it as finding your edges, finding where your edges are, and then pushing a little bit beyond that.
I like that because I can see it. It's a good visual.
Yeah.
And you have some lovely ways. You said some lovely things. I'm gonna have to listen back now and write it because I love that when I get something. These little quotes and sentences really stick with me, and I get the visuals. And I always say the little nuggets from every podcast that I take that gives me more experience and knowledge, and it always changes my perception when I sit with people because I'd love to think I've no biases. That's not true. I think we all do. But the more I sit with people, the less I have to know until I can have these conversations. Is there anything else, Chelsea, that we missed out that you want to add just before we finish up?
I think we've covered a lot. I think that as with everything, this work should be done in small doses. You don't want to push anyone beyond their capacity of what they can hold. And I think that what we've spoken about today is a really great start. And if anyone's curious, just get in touch.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to say on this one too that this for me will be something that will be a new experience, and I've not been curious about myself in this way before. So if anyone is interested, because I know Chelsea is hoping to be able to start a group on women's circle and workshop.
Yeah.
To please, because I'm definitely going to give it a try for myself. And something that I have a lot of uncomfortability around as a woman, and why I don't know.
And that's welcome. All of you is welcome.
Yeah. So I do think it would be nice if you could step into this. So if anyone listens and they're curious, please drop a message in, and we'll be sure to keep you posted. I'm sure Chelsea will, but if Chelsea doesn't mind when you do begin, I can sort of put it out there as well.
That'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful.
So I do have my final question I ask everybody. And if you were to tear down any wall, Chelsea, in society on mass scale or just an individual, what would it be?
I think ultimately it's shame.
Shame. It's massive, isn't it?
I think ultimately it's shame. There are so many micro walls. I think we really have to understand and have compassion for why women have to build these walls to start with. I think that is. And we have to go kindly. We have to go gently. But ultimately, it's shame.
Yeah. It's the one place where we cannot go is in shame.
Yeah.
Because we have to be silent. We have to disguise who we are.
Yeah.
So it was a massive one for me. I carried it around for a very long time.
Yeah.
And there's still areas where I can still feel a little bit shameful because I feel like I should have done more. I should be more at this age. And I have to say it out loud now in conversation. I feel a little bit shameful talking about this, but as soon as I say it, it sort of knocks the shame away. So I've learned that much. Chelsea, thanks so much. That was really insightful. I've learned a lot, and there's going to be a lot of after thinking after it. I really hope in Ireland that we can shift, make it less of a taboo subject, and get more curious about our bodies and not be waiting on people to pleasure us and know we can do it for. I know at least it's our own jobs to be able to know what we like.
Yeah, and to know that it has a ripple effect to every part of your life.
That's the part I'm really curious about that you say. And I believe you when you say it, like I trust what you're saying is true. So yeah, that would be amazing to have that for yourself, but then see you have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. And it was like 2 podcasts in one, because we were talking about all this lifestyle and stuff, and then we just went straight on to that. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I always think she'll hope chance. Thank you so much, Chelsea. Thank you. And thanks everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed that one, because I know I really did. Thanks, Chelsea.